Hey, welcome to the Freedom Parents Podcast. Today, we're going to take you through a little bit of our journey and tell you just how we got where we are today and how we became freedom parents. But also, we're going to tell you who we're for. And I'll give you a little cliff note. We're for the dreamers and the doers. So if that's you, hang out with us, and I hope you enjoy today's episode. Babe, we're starting a podcast. How about that?
Is that why this microphone's in front of me?
I guess so, yep. Didn't know it was coming, huh?
Well, it's here. It's been what? How many years?
Oh.
Talking about it.
At least 7. 7 years, yeah.
7 years.
But it's kind of crazy because actually, I don't think we envisioned it would get to this point. Funny thing is that when we had that prompting to go out on just a bigger level, inspire people, help people have massive breakthroughs in their lives, help parents, we were still in a place where we were slightly struggling.
Well,
right?
And sometimes I think, at least I don't want to speak for you, but it's kind of like, who am I? You know, you get that thought of, who am I to have a podcast? Yeah. Who am I? Who's going to listen to what we say? And there may be no one that listens, but maybe this is just some little counseling for us. I don't know.
I like that. You know what? Because I've tried therapy over the past year, and I'm not saying it's not great. I think it helped me in a season. But I also know that you and I both are very much about, getting things out. However, for true healing takes action. Yeah. True giving is action oriented, right?
100%.
So it's kind of funny though, but if we go back to 7 years ago when we started having this prompting of basically just stepping into first the mission of the Freedom Parents, it was for ourselves. Mm-hmm. I remember I was in the kitchen and we were talking, and we were just starting to get some freedom from the troubles that we were facing then. Mm-hmm. We were just starting to break through. Our marriage was just starting to do better. But there were some other things that weren't, like as small business owners, we were drowning, right? And you come into the kitchen and we're having this conversation, and despite the struggles that we were still living out then, 7 years ago, we had so much hope. Yep. And I remember you asking me, what do you want? Like, who do you want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And the first thing that came out of my mouth was, I want to be freedom parents. Yeah. And you're like, what does that mean?
Right. What does that look like?
So,
give me some details.
Let's explain this super quick from that vantage point, and then kind of dive into also how we broke the mold of the old American dream, which was killing us, if we can be frank.
Yeah. It's an illusion.
Discovering the new American dream, right, and deciding to step fully into that, right? Right. So, when I said that, I want to be freedom parents, damn it. Like, this is what we need. I want to choose to have the choice, the ability to make the choice, to be a mom. We had 2, almost 3 kids. I was pregnant with our 3rd. Didn't know that we were going to have a 4th. Good thing we made this choice that day all those years ago. But I felt like it wasn't even my choice if I wanted to spend the days with them. Like, I didn't even have the choice to be a full-time mom. I wanted the ability to see you come home. You were suffering. I had brought myself home part-time at that point, and you took on everything that I left at our small business. And thank God, I always be grateful to you for that. But you took that on, and it was a huge burden. And I realized I got a little bit of freedom for myself, and you didn't have it, and that wasn't fair.
But that was the big thing and that's a paradigm shift that most people don't have. And it's something that we try and impress upon people, is that I can remember a time during this period you're talking about, working with a mentor, trying to, help us navigate through the mess and dysfunction. Mm-hmm. And I remember him asking, what is it that you want? And when you can't get to a place to tell people, because I kept telling him what I didn't want. So, I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck anymore. I don't want to leave the house when my family's sleeping. I don't want to get home when my family's sleeping. I don't want to work 6 days a week and just live for a day and a half because I'm thinking about the Monday coming. So I can't relax on Sunday. So it's really just a kind of a Saturday, so it was all what I didn't want. But to your point is when we got to that place to really get specific to what it was we wanted. And that was a question I asked because I was like, what do you want? Like you say these words, but what is it? Because it's hard to hit a target.
Yep.
It's hard to get out of bed with excitement if you really don't have a target, right? You just get up and we were just aimlessly walking through, couldn't get excited about anything.
Yeah.
So that was huge.
That was huge because for the first time, 100%, I was just done with the past and ready to move into the future. Right. And my future was being a full-time mom, part-time entrepreneur, working the hours I wanted to work with my husband, who also got the choice to be full-time dad, part-time entrepreneur, to work the hours he wanted.
Yeah.
Designing our day, like literally designing our day and our month and our years to be the way that we envisioned it, to wake up when we wanted to wake up. It's kind of weird that it's 5 a.m. and 5:30 now, but we choose that.
But it's not because we have to. It's
that's a whole nother topic.
Again, it's choice. It's choice.
That's a whole nother topic. Yeah, we can't go into that just yet. But to really have the ability to choose to travel, to explore, to move. We were just discovering at that time also that we really, grateful for where we grew up in the deep south of Louisiana. People will probably hear that more in your accent than mine. They always do. But
when I get a little more relaxed.
Little Harry Connick over there. But, it was really being like real with ourselves that we were intended to live the next season of our life somewhere else, where there was mountains, where there was lower humidity, no hurricanes, hiking, just really incredible weather. It was the choice to break chains in our family and move from patterns of, depression, anxiety, addiction, and to really discover, self-healing and to create a new foundation for our soon-to-be 4 kids that we didn't know we were going to have. There was all of these things of what we were finally able to picture our future should be. And it had nothing to do with the old American dream, right?
No.
Which we were living.
We were checking the boxes of that.
Yeah. And so what was that? You lived it out perfectly, coming out of high school and doing what
going into college
you were told was the right thing to do, right?
Went and got a corporate job, worked my way up into that, was making 6 figures a year. And it's funny when you throw out the 6 figures a year, and it's like $8,333 and 97 cents or whatever. I don't know, whatever. But it's like a month, and it just wasn't doing what we wanted.
No, It was so funny because when I was, 15, 16, I remember asking my dad, hey, what's a good income? What's a really when you're wealthy, what kind of income are you making? Because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And not that it's all about money.
No, we'll get in that in a second.
But he said 6 figures. And so that was the goalpost.
Right.
And I was crushed. Oh my God, Harold, when we achieved that with our small business.
Right.
And I realized all the things that I couldn't do for and with my kids or you or other people.
Well, because part of the American dream was looking like the American dream, meaning we had to have the 2 shiny cars.
Nice house in a subdivision.
Nice house in a nice subdivision in our community. We were small business owners, so we had to live that part. And I remember thinking that I remember pulling at someone's house in an older vehicle. This is just how dysfunctional our thinking was. And most of America, if you just look at the statistics and why people are where they are, I'd be naive again, not to think that we were the only ones. But I remember pulling up and seeing all these nice cars. And then I'm like, man, I got to get a new car. I remember getting home and telling you, we got to level up our car because we're small business owners. I'm here with these other business owners. So what I did, get in debt over some just ignorance, right? But so checking the boxes, small business owners, graduated college, earning the 6 figures, barely skimming on in, and realized that wasn't the answer.
No. Well, the crazy thing is that we were actually on the mends with our marriage. It was getting better and better every day. However, because of the thing that we were breaking through of at that time, 7 years ago, when we realized this became a mission. It wasn't just about you and I anymore. Mm-hmm. It was about us breaking through so we could help others break through. Mm-hmm. But prior to you fast forward, another maybe even 3-4 years before that, we both were looking at each other with our second baby, like newly in my womb, and said we thought we needed a divorce.
Right.
We were ready to give up literally on everything.
So that's a good pivot right there. So at that point, about to have a second child, throwing the D word out there, was, contemplating that. Business was pretty sad at that time. It was kind of, we had our ups, and then it was coming down, and had it up, and then it was coming down. And I remember you were like, wait, we're going to California?
Yeah.
We're flying across the country. We're buying a hotel room. We're buying plane tickets. You just said that we're like broke. And I'm like, But I'm going all in. Like,
and
I just loaded the chips and said all black on the roulette, basically.
Yeah. And we just said that we couldn't stand to be around each other, basically. We're like, I love you, but I don't know what to do with you.
Yeah. So we went to this California. What was the name of that event?
Bedros Keuilian's.
It was Bedros Keuilian's
Business Summit.
Business Summit. Yeah. I think it was his first one or second one. It was really, really new. I remember seeing a guy sitting on these interviews with flip-flops or no shoes on a couch. And I'm like, this is my dude. Like, you don't have to be corporate America. This guy's like, he looks relaxed. That's what I'm talking about. And then I started implementing a lot of the things he was suggesting to do. And it was starting to work somewhat in our business. So I said, you know what? Let's go all in. So we flew across the country, and that was the next chapter, right?
That's crazy, though, to think, okay, this is actually a huge pivot or choice that a lot of people, when they're in this, we were in pain, like struggling financially, struggling in our marriage, just found out we were pregnant with the second baby. And it seemed obvious that was not the right thing to do at the time, right? Like, we are not getting along. Why the heck are we getting on this plane? Why are we spending money to go to this event? However, that event changed our lives. It changed the whole course of our lives in one event in many ways, but also because we met our business coach, our future business coach there, who then offered us the opportunity that became our new American dream, right?
100%. But to that point, it's too many people think reasonably. Think about that. Like, the reasonable thing to do would have taken the few $1,000 we had, took the free tips the guy was giving us, Bedros at the time, and implement them and slowly try and change the trajectory of our business and our lives. That would have been the reasonable thing to do. I know pretty much as for a fact that we would not be where we are today if you think reasonable all the time.
Right. No.
So we were like, let's get unreasonable. And the unreasonable thing to do was to take your wife and your spouse, that you couldn't stand at the time. Let's just, kind of, sort of, right?
There was it was no kind of sort of about. We couldn't stand each other.
And some lint and a few coins in our pockets and just go all in. That was unreasonable. When I look back at it, that is unreasonable. And not too many people are willing to do that. Mm-hmm. They play it safe. They do the reasonable thing. And when I look back at it, I was like, that was the most unreasonable, I'll say it again, thing to do.
Yeah, it was.
But but you gotta, at some point you come to that mindset of every time you think things are bad, every time you think you're broke, every time you think it's the worst day of your life, you get through it. Every single time you get through it. So I think it was to that place that was like, I've done harder stuff than that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we always say the breakdown can lead to the breakthrough. It, for some people, won't, because when you hit the ground as hard as we hit it at that point of our lives, when you're just dropped from it feels like 100 feet in the air, and then you hit your head and everything's aching and you feel broken. It's really hard to sit up and be like, this can get better.
Yeah.
But we had no other hope, but to say that I'm not giving up on this yet.
Yep.
Like, I don't feel, and that's a question I wish people would ask themselves, honestly, with any goal they have in their life or in a relationship or whatever it might be, is, have you actually done everything that you could? Mm-hmm. Have you actually opened every door? Have you actually opened up your heart and made yourself available, to be loved, to experience change, to have growth in your life, to see what kind of leadership or power or mission or calling or message is inside of you? Because everyone experiences the breakdown, right? That's human life, different day, different story, different name, different whatever. But everybody's going to go through some kind of breakthrough. But if we can get up and just really ask ourselves, truly honest, in the mirror moment, am I doing everything I can? And that's what led me on that plane with you that fateful day. I looked in the mirror. I said, you know what? It starts with me. I think you asked yourself the same thing,
Yep.
So the freedom parents. So at the point that this came through to us, we had 2 healthy baby girls with the baby boy on his way. And we loved being together. Our marriage is, I typically write on our posts, and I know my transparency is an acquired taste for sure, but I always say, once I wouldn't have wished my marriage on anyone. Now I wish my marriage for everyone, that everyone can experience what we've experienced. We've grown together. Yep. And if none of the other stuff happened, first of all, that reward is greater.
Well, and that brings up to go back to with the money thing. I remember we got to a place to where through mentorship, through personal development, through decision and agreement, got clear on goals, that we were like, if we can't be happy with nothing, money's not going to make us happy. Like it can't be contingent on that. So I wanted to go back to that because you had mentioned that. And we sold one of our cars. I mean, we were doing pretty well at that point too, in America's standards. But we still, I said, we're going to get as lean as possible because we're going to be authentic in what we're teaching and what we're preaching and what we're receiving. And we went down to one car. We did cut the cable at the time and all that. We went to I think we did a date night. It was like a Subway sandwich, a bag of chips on the lakefront. Mm-hmm. There was no Disney World. There was none of that. We took the kids to the park with a blanket and a Frisbee.
Mm-hmm.
Like that.
Camping.
We
did camping once.
We did camping in like a
Mississippi
$67 raccoon infested whatever, right? But that's some of the best memories the kids have. It wasn't these $10,000, $20,000 Disney trips and that. And we were happy. Mm-hmm. And I was like, it's like and that was a place where it was like, it's not about money. Because a lot of people will go and they'll sacrifice their health. They'll sacrifice their relationships. They'll sacrifice everything to get money, thinking it's going to be the thing that makes them happy. And I read too many books. I listened to too many mentors say that that's not it.
Yeah.
Right. So we had to get straight on that. So I wanted to put that out there because that was important. And we got to a place to where we enjoyed each other's time. Mm-hmm. We enjoyed the silence. We enjoyed the simple things.
Being parents.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So then when the wealth came, and we'll get into some of that. I don't know where we're going to go with that, but nothing changed. Like experiences changed maybe, mm-hmm. Our giving changed. That leveled up immensely. We had more choices, right? So all of that did, but as far as our happiness, no.
Well, and that's a great point actually too, because we ended up from that point when we became freedom parents in our hearts was because we worked harder because we wanted more time together.
Yeah.
Some people along the way, they've asked us, they're like, when is it enough? I'm like, I don't know. When do you say that you have a certain mark in your life where you're done serving people or you're done cultivating experience and adventures for the people you love? Like, is there a point? Is there an age or there's a limit to what you say, no, I'm not going to shine my light anymore. God, I think I've helped enough people. We just don't operate from that place of like, we want more money. We operate from the place of wanting to help more and be more and just really living life, you know?
Yeah, but it did take that pain of the financial stress. So to go backwards a little bit, I don't want to bounce too much and get people all over the place, but it's such a long journey.
Yeah.
But the pain of the finances did, because that was a lot of the conflicts. That was a lot of the stress. We did have to resolve that. We did have to get that taken care of.
Yeah. Well, finances, what is it? One of the biggest reasons for divorce is finances.
I know a statistic, maybe 50%.
Yeah. Well, I had to get real with that. I had, when we started really crossing the threshold of we became, leaders, so-called leaders within what we do now, my personal mindset I had to get over was, how much do I have to do? I had a work ethic problem because I was tired, and wanted to be mom, and I wanted what I wanted in the future now without having to do the work too. But ultimately, seeing you, when I kind of got to
that's
turn
where I
a
was
blind
going. That
eye.
time when I came home,
Yes.
I think that was a tipping point. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, because we'll tolerate. It's amazing what us humans will tolerate. Don't like, but we will tolerate and tolerate.
Because someone told us it's normal and good, or someone told you, that's the American dream. You went to college, you own a business.
Hey, that's life.
You're doing better
that's
than
some
me.
bull diggity.
Like, if you're doing better than your parents, well, God damn it, your parents might have been in an extreme amount of pain, putting up with their life. Just because you're doing a fraction better doesn't mean it's okay.
Right. Everyone has their threshold. Some never meet it, so they never change. Right. Some never meet the threshold to change, that pain threshold. But for us, because we kept putting ourselves in situations and surrounding ourselves with people who were, I'll say, winning, it gave us hope. And like, well, these people are human beings just like us. There's nothing extraordinary about them. And I say that from love. I don't mean that, they're special people, sure, but they're not any more extraordinary than we or you or, whoever's listening. And that was the point. So when the pain it hit our threshold, and I came home, remember? And you seen it on my face.
Yeah.
You're like, what's wrong?
And
because I did a good job of hiding it. Like, I just dealt with it. I kind of sheltered you from the finances. I moved things around. I
hardly
beat the hell
ever
out of
told me
Peter
how
to pay
bad
Paul.
it was, except for when I was having extra Target or Amazon purchases, and then it was, what are you buying?
Right.
But so I was slow to put it all together that the money wasn't there, and you came home, and I don't see you cry often, but you sat down, and it was like the wind was sucked out of you, and I remember you put your head in your hands on the counter and you just cried. And that was the moment I realized, what you argue for, you keep.
Yeah.
Sam, you either level up and you put equal amount of energy into getting out of this shit that we're in, and work with your husband fully, and stop acting like, it's a 50-50 thing. Stop acting like there's a limit to the amount of work you do each day to get out of this, and actually just be full partners and put all your time and energy into getting free, you know? Kind of funny though, when you actually did finally tell me, remember we had just got it off a training call. I remember you telling me how bad it really was, right?
Yeah. Well, we were in the kitchen. I remember exactly where we were. And I remember you said, how bad is it? And I said, well, I think we had a second line of credits maxed out. Credit cards are pretty done. I think we had, I'd gotten an alert from the bank that said we had, I think, $1,500 in the bank, but I had $25,000 to $30,000 a month in payroll and expenses, and those were coming in a week. And I was just like, it looks pretty bleak, right?
Yeah.
And then that's when you started to cry. And I always say, I said, like any good husband, I went over to her, I gave her a hug, and I said, don't worry, baby. I'm trying to console her. I said, you'll always have me. And she started to cry harder. And it's a joke, but it's not. And at that point, though, that was that pivotal moment that woke her up. It woke me up. And then we got really clear to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We've had enough of this. That was the threshold for us. And that really was, you have many micro pivotal moments, and they collectively add up. People think there's just this one big one. I mean, you might have some larger ones over time, but it's the micro pivotal moments when you just start those little changes. right? And they start to add up and add up. And that was one.
That was
for sure.
One of the biggest wake up calls. And I think
that got us into action.
That got us into major action.
Massive action.
Well, and the fact that our side hustle, you know, there's a lot of people out there, let's face it. Like there's really great opportunities in front of them, but they're listening more to what they've been conditioned to think about it, you know, that it's going to be too much work, it's going to be too hard, or those things don't work, or whatever it is. And so you turn your nose up to it. Like a lot of people turn their nose up to it. But when it boiled down to it in that very moment, our side hustle, the money we were making from it, and the little time that we were putting into it was bailing us out from our small business that was crumbling, right?
Right.
And you can't ignore that.
No. So we had to give that attention. We had to pour fuel on that fire. Mm-hmm. It was ridiculous that we weren't at the time.
Yep. And it was ridiculous. So ridiculous.
But we were trying to save face.
Exactly.
And small business owner.
We were afraid of looking like a failure.
But when we let that go, and I think I went to work, then you got really focused on what we do now. And then I would contribute, fill in the gaps and contribute, and always was involved. But I had to get that other business. And I remember we made a decision. We said, hey, talked to the bank, and I said, hey, this is where we're at. The lady's name was Kelly. I loved working with her at the bank. We had a great relationship. She always was looking to help us. We always paid our bills on time. And I said, hey, if I back the truck up and do a fire sale, and I sell all this equipment, I said, can you amortize the debt? And we just locked the doors. I can negotiate. Our lease is coming up. And she went to work. She got back with me. She goes, yeah, you'll have to pay $750 a month for, I don't know what it was. I think 5 years or something like that. 7 years or something silly like that. I was like, okay. I said, I'll get back to you. And I went to you and I said, okay, plan B is this. And you're like, that's plan B? I thought that's what we just said, let's just do it. I said, no, plan A, give me 6 months or give me a year. Mm-hmm. I said, I'm going to turn this thing back into black. I'm going to make it to where it's not dependent on me. We can sell it. Because you can't sell a business when it revolves around you, right? I'm not coming with the business. Mm-hmm. So I had to remove myself and make it to where it operated without it. That way it's more sellable. And I remember I went to a conference. It was just so happened. Things start happening divinely. Like when you start focusing on getting shit done, all of a sudden it's like things just all of a sudden appear. But I remember Thomas Plummer, those you don't know him, he's up there in age and he's got some wisdom and he's just a fireball. Went to a conference with him in New Orleans and Rick Mayo was there. He's pretty prominent in the fitness industry. And my friend our mentor went with us, Alex, at the time. And I remember going to that conference and I was like a student. I took everything because he had this business similar to ours, similar in size, but he had broke the code and he removed himself and he had it to where it was just really sufficient. Anyway, I tell this story all that I took that home, we implemented it into the business and we ended up selling the business 6 months later.
Yeah.
And
but we had made a commitment that we would also close the doors if it wasn't sold.
We did. So we put a time frame on it and we said a year, but we ended up doing it in 6-ish months.
Yeah. Because it was taking too much of our time, energy, emotions. Yep. There was things that popped up here and there that, it just had to go.
But that was a big thing for you was to let that go.
It was.
Because see a lot of professionals.
I called it my baby.
They have these degrees. They went to school for 5 years and their identity is, I'm a chiropractor. Or my identity that I'm a teacher. I'm in the identity as a small business owner of X, Y, and Z. And you were caught up in that identity. I was like staring down the barrel of all the debt. And I was like, I'm good. Close the door. I'll announce it on Facebook. We out. Peace.
Yep.
Right. Let's burn this motherfucker down. But you were caught in identity as I don't want to look like we failed. I don't want to look like, right? But a lot of people
created
are caught in that
those
identity.
wings. We created the name. Like I was so proud that we created something from nothing.
Yeah.
And so proud of it. In fact, that for several years, I didn't see that I could do the same thing with something that would give us more freedom and give other people more freedom.
Yeah.
You know, we were capped in that small business and I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for the friendships and the experiences and good or bad, all the things that came from it. You know, I would never trade it. But the fact is, it was a season and I needed to let it go to move into the next season.
So a lot of people are in that identity though, right? Because that was another pivotal moment, right? So a lot of people are in that identity that they're trying to force a square peg in a round hole because someone told them, or they spent the money and the time to get that degree, to do that job, or they put in the work to get that promotion, and they're hating it. And it's not providing them, it's giving them that old American dream, that illusion, right? That you're walking around shiny and just getting
job
by,
with the
but
steady income.
at home you're crying and you're skimping by and you're settling, right? You're looking at the menu, you're looking at the price before you look at what you really want to eat.
Yeah, you're asking your boss if you can take vacation.
Right. You're asking permission if you can have, you're sick, and you're asking permission to be sick at home. I don't know, man. To each is their own, but it doesn't have to be that way. And if your identity is holding you up, you need to check that, because we had to.
Yeah.
Right.
That was huge, both with, you had the pride of your degree, and moving away from that towards something totally new. I had the insecurities of not having a degree. I'm not college educated. I did 2 years, and then I decided I like making money more and became a personal trainer. So, there's so many things that we had to break up with at that point, though, that we finally did. And we leaned into, said, we're going to be freedom parents.
Yeah.
And here's what we're going to do. We're going to get each other free. We're going to work on our own terms, where we want, when we want. We're going to create the life that we want to live and the opportunities and foundation that we want for our children.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it was about giving back too. I believe in God. I'm a Jesus follower, and I was made new, and I made a promise why we're here on this podcast today, because otherwise our freedom's too good to create more work. But that promise that we made wasn't just so that you and I could be freedom parents. It was because I knew there was moms crying themselves to sleep at night. I knew that there was dads like you in the shower, counting, doing the numbers, running all the numbers in their head, robbing Peter to pay Paul, just trying to figure out how they were going to make it work,
I was whooping Peter's ass.
And neither of us were okay with that, knowing that if we started this today and we leap forward in faith and we continue to share our trials, tribulations, our successes and victories, and continue building this community, that we are going to welcome more freedom parents.
Yeah.
And we've done that over the, past decade that we've been doing this now.
Yeah.
But it's time for this message to really get out there. And this is why we care. This is why we care about people knowing the ability that's in them.
Well, the freedoms is a lot more fun when you have people to share with too. Because we realized when we got free, it was like, hey, it's interesting. It's like everyone was in our faces about always being on our phones, or always hosting events, or always presenting, or always hustling. And they're like, man, y'all always working. And then when we rose up, then we created that freedom. We stepped into the freedom parents. It was like, hey, y'all want to go do X and X on Wednesday or Thursday, or y'all want to go travel? And like, we can't, Harold and Sam. Some of us got to work for a living. It was like, oh, okay. Yeah. It was like, yeah, you might want to.
You see how this hustle thing works.
Yeah, you see how this hustle thing works.
You work hard in a condensed amount of time.
Your ladder's just leaning up against the wrong, building of success.
Yes.
You're climbing the wrong ladder, and sometimes you got to let it go, whether it's the identity, ego. So long story short, because we could literally, there's so much that we could unpack, and hopefully we will over the course of this podcast. We eventually disrupted the patterns. We moved to Arizona, and like I said, freedom's much more fun with other people, because when you get free, you can go do a lot of things, but it's just you, which is cool because we love our family and we love each other.
Yeah.
And but it's pretty cool to have other people, to free them and watch their faces and see the change in their
hear
lives.
The stories of redemption,
Yeah. So.
And that's our hopes. That's our hopes for people, right?
Yep.
Is that they stop settling.
Yep.
And they get really real on what their American dream looks like, not what someone told you.
Right.
What your American dream looks like. Because we believe that you can design the life you desire.
Yep.
Right.
100%.